Hello, everybody. As we jump into week 12, let me take you to a little blast in the past. This is the discussion posting instructions from 2 weeks ago. And I bring this up for what we're into this week, also to remind you of what's coming up on some major assignments. You did this, remember? You found a part, at least, of a stand-up comedian's show on YouTube and took a particular joke. That's where we're headed this week. And of course, we're reading chapter 1 in Weston's A Rule Book for Arguments. And guess what he says? Only five paragraphs into the chapter, he says, even jokes can be arguments, though their reasons may seem silly. And I would argue that certain jokes are like that. The reasons or the premises can be silly. And what we've been talking about lately is how the conclusion could be silly, could be a logical fallacy in many cases. But this kind of turns it the other way. So keep that in mind, but he also gives you the short approach to deductions. And some good rules to follow about arranging a short argument. This will come in handy for this week's discussion and reading questions, but also for something else. Remember, our topic this week is what's so funny, or is it only just for laughs? So let's take a quick review of what I covered last week, which is the extended argument analysis number 3. And you'll see, there it is. Is it only just for laughs? And this is the option that you might take if you're interested in a stand-up comedian's work. Now, the other option deals with a television show or a motion picture. But let's just focus on stand-up comedy for the moment. And you're going to look at that stand-up comedian's work, some of the jokes he or she is telling the audience, especially the ones that are getting big laughs. And you'll see that in order for the punchline to work, it's usually illogical, right? So keep that in mind. And I hope you've read through the do's and don'ts. I'll tell you about the extra credit as we get closer to it, but read through this if you haven't, and look at last week's screencast where I go over it in a little more detail. And I'll try to keep this in the forefront of your attention as we move through this final month of the semester. But there's a companion assignment, of course, the proposal, and something else coming up this week, which is spot on with what I'm talking about today. A deductive analysis of a stand-up comedy routine. Of course, I just showed you chapter 1 in Weston's A Rule Book for Arguments. This is your buddy here. This is a 3-hour assignment. You have 3 hours to complete it. You can do it anytime, although if you do it after 9 p.m. on May 3rd when it's due, you won't have 3 hours. You'll have fewer than 3 hours. So get to it before then. My best advice is to do it over the weekend after you've finished the reading questions that have to deal with this chapter. You'll be ready. Okay, and here are the instructions. it's going to say take the quiz on your version. I'm using my version right now, but I'll show you what I mean. Here's your version. It's got this button down here, take the quiz. I know it's not a quiz, but Canvas isn't the sharpest tool in the shed. So you know how this rolls, because you remember the short argument analysis you did at the beginning of the semester. Set up kind of the same way, 50 points, and in this case, fewer paragraphs. And just identify a 4 to 7 minute video clip by a stand-up comedian in a comedy or TV series. YouTube's the easy way to go. You could try Instagram or even Hulu, but this is, I think, the cheap, quick, and dirty way to do it. Give the video clip or episode title, include the link, then describe the comedian's choice or topics for the comedy. That'll take care of your first paragraph. And the second paragraph, of course, is where you get into the details. Quote 1 or 2 jokes. One's fine. 2 might be better, depending on what you're going to do as far as analyzing them. And the setup line, of course, is the premise. There may be an unspoken premise, like what you'll see for our discussion this week, right? Kind of nudge you in that direction. There's usually a spoken one and an unspoken one that makes the comment work. But remember what we did last week on ethnic jokes? And I pointed out that the ethnic stereotype is the unspoken premise, because once you pull out the name of the ethnic group the joke is about and substitute a nonsense word, the joke fails because there's no ethnic stereotype. So that's a great example of an unspoken premise in a joke. And then, of course, there's the spoken one, the setup, and the punchline. And be sure to lay it out this way in Weston's short chapter on short arguments. Okay? And let's go back to the other view. And that's what's up for this week, but also to get you thinking along the lines of what's coming up later. I'll skip the proposal for now. Just think about the 2-paragraph deductive analysis of a stand-up comedy routine. But of course, get to the discussion, the reading questions first. Then you'll be ready to go on this. Be sure to ask me any questions you have. Glad to help. And you're pretty well prepared for this already, given what we've been reading and discussing, but do read that chapter in Weston before you get going on this. Okay, have a great week.